There's that old familiar feeling again. The crushing pressure of this historic courthouse. Actually, no. It's a little different today. There's an even more menacing tension in the air. There is a menacing tension in the air here today, isn't there? I suppose. Yes, I think so. It can only be the result of the menacing appearance of the defendant. A little more courtesy, if you please. Oh my, I do apologize. However, you're certainly not mistaken that this trial is far from ordinary. What do you mean? I'm not privy to the details. However, I understand that no jury has been selected. What? Stop throwing these twists! A trial without a jury? Well, that's just like the trial of the professor 10 years ago. A closed court. Good morning, my dear fellows. Mr. Sholmes. Have you made note of my hair, Mr. Naruhodo? An outright victory for science, you must agree. I shamefully admit that I did look at his hair first, so. Once again, fair enough, Sholmes. To be perfectly honest, so much happened yesterday that, well, I completely forgot about your little hair problem. Ha! What to one man is a little hair problem is to another day of drinking dubious potion after dubious potion. You have no idea how my stomach ails me this morning! Oh dear, how awful for you. I'm afraid you only have yourself to blame, Mr. Sholmes. Oh. Ah, good morning to you, Mr. Reaper. I'm delighted to see you looking so full of vim. And I see London's celebrated great detective, is as active as ever. Oh, you exaggerate, my dear fellow, compared to my paltry engagement with a few trivial cases. The Reaper's overbearing presence is a far greater deterrent to the black roots of crime in our capital. And whilst I may not agree with your methods, there is at least one point at which I would readily commend you. What an honor. And that would be? Your eye for a good lawyer, sir. Mr. Sholmes! After all, behind this lawyer there is a very great mind. My own. You! What are you trying to say? I wish only to say that you should be prepared for quite a trial, Mr. Reaper. Sorry to barge in. Gina! What's that in her arm? It's a mourning band, I suppose. Father, shouldn't you be at the symposium? It's been postponed, so I have some free time. I decided to come along with the police inspector to see our country's up-and-coming student in action. I shall be very interested to see the fruits of your studies over the past year. Well, it's an honor to have you here. Let's hope there are some fruits to see. Otto... Oh, yes, Gina? Why'd you agree to this, eh? Why'd you take him on? This Reaper bloke, everyone said it was him what killed the boss. I'm sorry, Gina, but I just don't believe that. Well, if it was him, who was it? I don't know that yet. I don't care who calls him what. The Reaper's just a name. He's just a person at the end of the day. And if it turns out it was him who killed the boss, then God help him. Fiery eyes indeed. Yes, the culprit deserves every ounce of your loathing. Eh? At least, that may be some solace to the deceased. Oh, Gina! Please, Otto. Get whoever did this for the boss. Oh, Gina. I ain't feeling this useless, but there's nothing I can do. So you've got to find who did this and make the wretch pay. Counsel for defense and the defendant. We are jerks who would like to interrupt your moment. Court will be in session shortly. Make your way to the courtroom at once, please. All right, then. Here we go. It's time, Mr. Naruhodo. Lord Van Zieks. One who lost his treasured brother to a mass murder. One who lost his treasured father in a foreign court of law. And one who lost the man who helped her escape destitution. All that misfortune, all that pain, on course to collide headlong in this trial. It's time to shine a light on all these dark events. And whatever truth is revealed, we're going to have to look straight in the eye. Gosh, it's so weird. In the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby declare this court to be in session. We are here to conduct the fair and just trial of the defendant, Barok Van Zieks. Counsel for the defense and prosecution, are you ready to begin? The defense is ready, my lord. The prosecution is more than ready. Oh, Kazuma-sama. I've been wishing to see you in court again for so long, it feels. But I never pictured it happening like this. I never thought I'd be facing you behind the prosecution's bench. The so-called Reaper of the Bailey has been a scourge like no other, undermining Her Majesty's justice system. Today, we must uncover the truth behind this scourge. In other words, this trial is going to be a lot more far-reaching than Inspector Gregson's murder. The truths revealed by these proceedings may have unpredictable repercussions through the judiciary. Accordingly, they are to be conducted as a closed trial, with no members of the public present. By Her Majesty's direct orders. How will that work, my lord? There are clearly people behind in the gallery. The burden of all the arbitration and education falls on my shoulders. Therefore, as you will see, the juror's bench shall remain vacant today. If no members of the public are present, might I ask who is currently occupying the gallery, my lord? They are members of the judiciary, here to witness proceedings and assure an equitable trial. Okay, well, thank you for justifying not having to change the backgrounds. Members of the judiciary. Oh my, this is a very unusual trial already. There is, of course, another unprecedented aspect to these proceedings on which I must elaborate. The counsel for the prosecution and the defense are both aliens of Great Britain. Shh. Fine. Just whatever. I don't care anymore. I believe it takes an outsider to see the truth sometimes. And as I stand here in this courtroom now, I'm quite certain. This is the reason why I had to come to Britain. Kazuma? Very well. Let us commence proceedings. Prosecutor Asugi, your opening statement, if you please. Certainly, my lord. The incident took place on 1st November at just after 5 o'clock in the afternoon. The location was a building of flats on Fresno Street on the outskirts of the city. The victim's body was discovered there in an old single-room rental property. Yes, Inspector Tobias Gregson, a name known very well indeed to this court. Not least for his miraculous resolution of one of this country's grimmest cases 10 years ago. The Professor case. How sure are you about the time of the incident? Several witnesses on the street outside heard the gunshot, and all have reported at the same time. Yes, that's what Gina told us too. There were a number of witnesses. I have here a plan of the room. The victim was found curled up in one corner. It's believed that he was shot from the front at point-blank range and died instantly. How has the range been determined? There were scorch marks around the entry wound. Such marks are caused by the gunpowder used to fire the bullet. But powder hot enough to leave scorch marks is only ejected a few inches beyond the end of the barrel. In other words, it only happens when the target is at point-blank range. I see, yes. Thank you for the detailed explanation, counsel. Autopsy report has been entered into the court record. Inspector Gregson's autopsy report, stating that death was instant, resulting from a bullet shot at close range. The murder weapon was found lying beside the victim. And have you managed to ascertain the owner of this firearm? No, my lord. Not conclusively. Bravo, Kazuma-sama, for not trying to use the gun as evidence when its provenance can't be proven. Furthermore, my lord, as I've explained, the revolver was fired at extremely close range. The bullet passed through the victim and struck the wall behind him. There is a candelabrum mounted on that wall, and the tip of one of the candles in it was found to have been blown off by the projectile. We noticed that too, didn't we? Yes, that's right. Thank you for the thorough report, counsel. The setting of the crime is clear to me. You will submit the plan of the crime scene as evidence, please. As you wish, my lord. The crime scene floor plan has been entered into the court record. A plan of the small room in the building of the flats on Fresno Street where the body of the victim, Inspector Gregson, was found. Is this Fresno Street room Inspector Gregson's private abode? No, my lord. The room is rented to a Mr. Hugh Boone. But there is precious little furniture inside, and it is generally in a poor state of repair. So what on earth was Gregson even doing there? Presumably he was investigating some case or other. When a policeman was informed of the gunshot from the witnesses and rushed to the scene, he found only the deceased inspector and the accused standing alongside, holding the revolver. The attending officer arrested the accused on the spot. So, the details of the case are clear. In that case, the prosecution would like to call its first witness. A name, please, counsel? Naturally, the accused himself. Well, Lord Van Zieks! As a prosecutor, he believes in the oath of the office he's taken, and will be compelled to tell the truth. Very well. Let the defendant take the witness stand. This feels so weird. So, witness, state your name and occupation for the court. Literally everyone in this room knows who he is! Barok Van Zieks, Old Bailey Prosecutor. I presume, Lord Van Zieks, that you heard Prosecutor Asuki's opening précis? I did. It is alleged that you were found at the scene of the crime, and that you were arrested by the arriving police officer. Can you confirm this? Yes, my lord. Then I'm sure the court would like to hear you explain some things away. Namely, why you were there in the room on Fresno Street at the time in question, and what exactly took place. I intend to explain away nothing. I will simply tell the truth. I must say, Lord Van Zieks, I never imagined this day would come. Or rather, I didn't want to imagine it would come. But since you became known as the Reaper, a part of me has been dreading it. Your formal testimony then, witness. I was investigating Gregson, and my inquiries had led me to that address. When I first entered the room that day, it was dark inside and I saw no one. A moment later, I heard the gunshot. I spun around and saw the revolver on the floor. Just as I picked the firearm up to examine it, the door flew open and I heard a man scream. It was only then that the body of Inspector Gregson appeared before me. That testimony was the whole truth? It was. So, you heard a shot being fired in a room with no living occupants, and moments later, a corpse somehow appeared before your eyes. Is that it? You're right. You haven't explained away anything. In fact, that would barely qualify as an excuse. I thought you were my mute apprentice. Yet it turns out you have a way with words, Prosecutor Asugi. It would appear to be a singular tale indeed. Singular isn't the word, it's laughable. What's got into Kazuma? Being like himself at all. Very well then. Counsel, you may begin your cross-examination. Yes, my lord. Oh my god! Okay, I think for now we're just gonna press each statement, try to get a little more detail out of things, so... Hold it! You were investigating the inspector? What on earth for? I'm not at liberty to say. Sorry? I'd identified a distinct possibility that Gregson was involved in a case I was investigating. Regrettably, though, he was killed before I could secure the proof I needed. Is the court to understand, then, that on the day in question, you followed the victim to the scene? No, I was privy to his movements in advance. How? I stole into his office in the yard and consulted his diary. That's not any better, dude! The address on Fresno Street was noted in the 5 p.m. entry. You illegally entered the man's office? In Japan, that alone would constitute a very serious offense. As it does in Great Britain, I assure you. Is that not the case, Lord Van Zieks? I was aware of the possible consequences. So, in summary, you were investigating the victim, and yet, you refused to tell the court why. I didn't realize British prosecutors enjoyed such freedom to choose what to divulge under oath. Ugh, why did I ever think I could defend this man? Because he's the king, he's the best character in this game! I love how composed he is. I would love for him to be more extra. Hopefully we'll see more of that later on. Hold it! Had you ever been to the address before? No, never. I only learned to the place as a result of my investigations into Gregson's activities. There was no light inside when I entered, so it was all but impossible to make out anything. But at 5 p.m., the sun would only have just gone down. It would still have been reasonably light outside. The room has a window, but it was boarded shut. Very little light found its way into the room from outside, so it was extremely murky inside. I wouldn't have noticed if the victim was already lying on the floor. There was no artificial light in the room, you say? You're quite sure? I'm quite sure that the part of the room where the body was found was very dark. I have a feeling there was a small oil lamp burning on the desk, though I couldn't say for certain. Look, Mr. Nahodo. There is a small desk in the room just here. Yes, I remember. And there was an oil lamp on it, as well as the framed photograph. When I entered the room, I closed the door behind me and started towards the desk to investigate. And what did you find? Nothing. I never actually reached the desk.
Hold it!
So, who fired the gun? I have no idea. I didn't see anybody else in the room. But you say it was very dark in there. Yes, that's right. All I can tell you is, I didn't sense another's presence. Aha! Then could it be that the gunshot actually originated from somewhere outside the room? No, that's out of the question. Oh. Without doubt, the sound emanated from inside the room. I could smell the gunpowder. Ugh, this is going from bad to worse. And you say that's the point at which you noticed the revolver on the floor? Correct. And I foolishly picked it up. That was carelessness on my part. Presumably then, the gunshot you heard came from the firearm that you somewhat hastily took in your hands? In point of fact, my lord, I believe it did not. What? The barrel of the revolver I picked up was cold, and there was no smell of spent powder. But then, where on earth is a gun that was fired? Whilst I would like to oblige you with an answer, I'm afraid I can't. I, too, would dearly like to know that. Alright, just a couple more.
Hold it!
A man, you say? One of the witnesses, I presume? That's right. One of the street merchants working on Fresno Street. Who are these merchants? A number of them had set up their stalls directly beneath the boarded window of the crime scene. A match seller, a newsmonger, and a peddler. They've all given statements saying they heard the gunshot. And without thought of danger, they ran inside to see what had happened. Yes, Gina told us about that yesterday, didn't she? They burst through the door with some force, it would seem. They did, and almost gave me a heart attack in the process. But you're supposed to be the Reaper. The first man to come in immediately noticed the revolver in my hand and fled. A policeman patrolling on Fresno Street heard the commotion and was able to arrest the accused shortly after the incident occurred. Anyway, the man's scream drew my attention in that direction.
Hold it!
What do you mean by that? In what way did a body appear? I honestly can't explain it, but it's the truth. As far as I was concerned, the body hadn't been there until that point, and then suddenly, there it was. Did you perhaps hear the sound of the victim falling to the ground just beforehand? At that moment, what I heard was the sound of the door flying open and the scream of the man who came inside first. Nothing more. I see. After the man fled, I examined the body. I was stunned to find that it was Gregson. Most curious circumstances indeed. How the inspector was killed, or how his body seemed to appear out of nowhere, I have no idea.
Objection!
Oh. Surely the court has heard enough. My lord, the cross-examination has clearly revealed that the accused, Barok Van Zieks, is lying on multiple fronts. What is that supposed to mean? Good gracious, counsel. The defendant is lying, you say? In his testimony just now, he claims that he failed to notice the victim's body because the room was dark. That's correct. No, that's impossible. As proven by this candelabrum, how does that prove anything? If you examine the tip of the long candle, you can see it has been blown off by a powerful impact. One would assume that the projectile from the firearm passed through the victim and struck the candle. The problem comes when you consider the other two candles, which are clearly of a different length. Yes, I can see that only the candle appears to have been struck by the bullet is long. We could reasonably expect someone to have lit all three candles together, which begs the question of why only one has ended up longer than the others. That must be because that particular candle was extinguished when the others were still burning. Ah! That's right. When the candle was hit by the bullet, it obviously went out. But the other two candles would still have been burning, so the fact is, the victim's body would have been illuminated by the light thrown by the candelabrum. And the accused claim that he couldn't see the body clearly contradicts those facts. And now, to the next lie. There's more? The accused also claims never to have visited the scene of this crime before. That's the truth. In that almost empty room, the police discovered something very unusual. A board covered from the top to bottom in police documents and newspaper cuttings. Yes, that's right. We saw it too. It goes without saying that the contents of the police documents cannot be divulged. However, they include a number of reports from various historical cases, the oldest of which was from 10 years ago. 10 years ago? This is starting to sound familiar. Oh, does it? As if every other conversation we've had did not mention 10 years ago! And there is a common thread linking all the documents on that board. Indeed? What is this common thread, counsel? They all relate to cases prosecuted in court by Barok Van Zieks. All of them? And furthermore, all those cases are ones in which the defendant was acquitted. Good lord! Interestingly, none of those defendants are alive today, because all of them have been sent to their graves by the Reaper. Ugh! Oh no! In short, that dingy little room is the Reaper's secret hideout and his base of operations. The Reaper's hideout? And yet the Reaper would claim never to have been to his own secret hideout. No one would believe that. No, the truth is, we've been looking at this backwards. Backwards? Explain, counsel! Inspector Gregson was investigating the identity of the Reaper. When he discovered the location of the man's secret hideout, he was killed. As I'm sure everyone can imagine, by the Reaper's hand! What? What? Order! 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 Very well, I hereby state the current opinion of the court. Barok Van Zieks is an outstanding prosecutor who has rendered great service to his country. However, it is with deep regret that I must concur with Prosecutor Asagi's contention that the defendant's testimony exhibits a number of stark inconsistencies with the known facts. All I have done is state the truth as I know it. Kazuma's done a brilliant job as ever. He's drawing on his experience as a defense attorney to build his prosecution case, and it's formidable. Counsel, you will submit the board that you just showed the court as evidence. I believe it to be fundamental, establishing the facts surrounding the Reaper's existence. Thank you, my lord. The notice board has been entered into the court record. A freestanding notice board completely covered in notes and articles relating to victims of the Reaper of the Bailey. And now, the prosecution would like to call new witnesses to the stand. Witnesses who saw events unfold on the day in question. They were mentioned in the previous testimony too, if you remember. Yes, the street sellers heard the gunshot and went running into the room. Very well. Lead the witnesses in. The defendant may step down from the witness stand. Certainly, my lord. No! Beppo! No! Wait, Beppo! No! This game is such an emotional roller coaster. So, witnesses, state your names and occupations for the court. Names? We don't use names. Far too fancy for the likes of us. We're just free and easy. Sell what we like, live where we want to live. I give them all a vacant stare as they walk down Fresno and spin a few words into a verse for them. Ah. Would I be right in assuming that all three of you make your living by selling wares on the street? Heh, everyone calls me Gossip. I sell jaunty little tidbits to passers-by, you know? Jaunty little tidbits? Gotta absolutely smash it for you, sir. Right up your griddle, it is. 6 pence is the price, and not a penny less. Wait, you're actually trying to sell it to me now? Oh, come on, sir. Don't tell me you're not interested. Try the man. Give him the money and see what it is. Pay the man, counsel. Everyone is on drugs right now. All right. 6 pence it is. You won't regret it, sir. Now, got your listener ears on? Just between us, a young couple on Slate Street have just had twins. I'm gonna kill you. Is that it? No, that's not it. It's gossip, isn't it? It wants to spread. But that bit's up to you and your mouth, of course. I've got more, you know. Want another juicy one? 6 pence a piece it is, if you're curious. I am curious, yes, about what's going on just under that fat bottom lip of yours. Namely, that unusual bruise or whatever it is that's poking out from under your collar. What about the next witness, then? What name do you go by and what do you sell? Me? I'm Venus. That's what everyone calls me. Funny, innit? I'm everyone's Venus. I sell these lovely little fireworks to all the local school kids. 6 pence a pop. What do you say? You weren't exaggerating with little. Do they actually sell? Oh yeah, the second years can't get enough of my Venus firecrackers. Ha! Okay, you get 1 point, game. Especially when I tell them that if they get 100, they could blow up the school. Not the most savory of ideas, young lady. What do you say then, eh? One part with 6 pence for a pop? Wait, what? You want me to buy one? Tell you what, I'll let you in on a little secret. If you get 100 of them, you can blow up the whole courtroom. Try the woman. Give her the money and see if she's right. Pay the woman, counsel. I hate everyone in this courtroom right now. Every one of you can go die. All right, I'll buy one. Lovely stuff. Right then, this is something a bit extra just for you. The Venus Special, only 600 pence. 600? It's 100 of my regular fireworks. Nothing little about it, is there? And there'd be nothing little about the punishment if I blew up the Old Bailey either. Venus firecrackers been entered into the court record. We actually have this. Oh my god, I cannot wait to see how we use this hot mess as evidence. The Venus special firecracker consisting of 100 smaller fireworks at 6 pence each. What sort of bank could it make? And the last witness, what name do you go by and what do you sell? I'm the think in me. Think all sorts of thoughts. I think, therefore I am. I am, therefore I think. I think. Because I stand there on the street, watching the world go on about me. They call me the Observator. Get out of it, old man. Everyone calls you Sandwich and you know it. So, you don't actually sell anything? Problem shared is a problem halved, as they say. I'd give advice, I do, and think what it means. And don't actually sell anything, no. Come to think of it. Pity. No more purchases today, please. Well, we have quite a cast here, it seems. They conduct their business on Fresno Street from morning until night, my lord. And always in the same place, directly adjacent to the crime scene. I see. And thus they heard the gunshot, I suppose. Not only that, but they very bravely ran inside to see what was going on and witnessed the crime. Well, I'll be bigger, I thought. Just between us. Venus de Milo, what I am to do. What a terrible thing I saw. What I think is, if all what we see is light and shadow playing with our eyes, is any of it real? Very well. The court will hear the formal testimony of these three witnesses now. You will describe in detail what you witnessed and heard at the time of the incident. Why are they so grayscale? We saw the whole thing from start to finish, we did. Everything from the moment they went in the building. It was less than a minute after the Reaper had gone inside that we all heard a big bang. Seems to me that quick to talk is quick to walk. Gossip couldn't wait to go and see what had happened. I ran to the room and there he was, the Reaper, gun in hand, standing over the dead body. I was scared half to death, me, so I ran out to find a cuppa. If these witnesses were there the whole day and saw everything, who did they see going inside the building? Only the victim, Inspector Gregson, and the accused, Barok Van Zieks. I see pictures of the Reaper on the paper. I know what he looks like. Just between us, folk love stories like this. I've made myself a tidy sum already. But wait! The room was just one of several flats in the building. Someone from another flat could have done it. All of those flats on Fresno Street are unoccupied. Of course they are. They're small, damp, dirty, and expensive to boot. The room in which the inspector was found is the only property in the building that's currently leased. And we know the leaseholder's name, don't we? It's Hugh Boone. The testimony the court has just heard would appear to leave little room for doubt. It's becoming increasingly difficult to see how anyone other than the defendant could have committed this crime. No! Thank you for your candor, my lord. Counsel for the defense, you may proceed to cross-examine the witnesses. Yes, my lord. In a closed court like this without a jury, the judge is the only person whose opinion matters. I have to break down this testimony somehow. Okay, so there's one thing I want to do before we do anything. I want to examine those fireworks that we got. since we spent so much money on them. Have you had an idea, Mr. Naruto? You're staring at the end of the string of fireworks. Sorry, it's just that it's the Venus special. I was wondering what 600 pence worth of fireworks would sound like. Shall we find out? What? But she said it could blow up the courtroom. Alright, that was a fairly sizable bang. My ears are still ringing, Mr. Naruto. It sounded almost exactly like the details of the Venus firecracker have been updated in the court record. Venus special firecracker consisting of 100 small fireworks at 6 pence. It goes off like a gunshot. With that out of the way, we're just going to press. When you say they, who do you mean exactly? Inspector Gregson and defendant Lord Van Zieks? I suppose so. The likes of us don't know the names of the high and mighty. You explicitly told us that you knew who he was. But I'll tell you one thing, it was the old Reaper that went in last, that's for sure and certain. Just behind Inspector Gregson, did they arrive at the same time as each other? No, not at all. The first fellow must have gone inside a good 15 minutes before we heard that gunshot. The victim arrived 15 minutes before? Are you sure about that? Am I sure? Am I sure? Does it seem likely that I've forgotten a fellow with bright red hair like that, does it? Pardon? Yeah, his hair was red, wasn't it? Redder than my flaming fireworks, even. That fire red mop still burnt on the inside of my eyelids, it is. Wait a minute! You're saying the man was a redhead? Weren't you listening, chum? Aye, he was a redhead. And he had a big trunk with him as well. But Inspector Gregson's hair isn't red. Not by any stretch of the imagination. It seems likely that the person you saw wasn't in fact Inspector Gregson at all, but some other third party. No, I hate to bring it to you, but the witnesses are correct. What? Just have a look at this photograph of the victim taken at the scene. Yes, that's Inspector Gregson, all right. And a red hairpiece. Ah! Of course! We saw one on the floor when we investigated the scene, didn't we? I still refuse to believe Inspector Gregson wore a hairpiece, though. So then why on earth would he have been wearing something like that? The color does seem to suit the man, one might say. The photograph will be submitted as evidence, please, counsel. Okay, photograph of the victim has been entered into the court record. A photographic print of the victim, Inspector Gregson. His body appears to be tightly curled up, and there's a red hairpiece on his head. And what became of the trunk that the red-headed victim was supposedly carrying? I was informed that no trunk was found at the scene. So it just disappeared? What? You expect us to have been watching the building every second, do you? We definitely saw him on the dock going through. No question about that. Alright, I'm gonna check on this, because something about this seems a little off.
Hold it!
Seems too confident. So then, you were the first person to arrive on the scene, is that right? That I was. Kicked the door open like a professional, I did, and yelled out, "What's going off here?" Lord Van Zieks claims all he heard was a man scream, though. And it was dark inside the room. No, not dark at all. There were candles burning on the wall. Really? And there was a fella collapsed on the floor. Just between us, it's the first thing I noticed when I got inside. Ah, I see. Even though Lord Van Zieks claims not to have seen any such lights on the wall. The next thing I noticed, I was someone standing right beside the body. The accused, Barok Van Zieks. That's right, the pale-faced Reaper himself. I was a little shocked, I won't deny it, but I'm no lily-livered coward. I stood my ground and gave the Reaper a cold hard stare myself. Whoop. Hello.
Excuse me.
Do you have something to add, Mr. Sandwich? Oh, Peppo. There's really nothing to me. Empty in the head I am. Just 2 slices with no middle. So I don't know what you could want with me. I think that maybe you just remembered something. Having heard Mr. Gossip's last statement, I mean. What I think is, we're all nothings, really. We tried to dress ourselves up as something else, but at the end of the day, we're all just street sellers. That's enough out of you, Sandwich. Keep your trap shut now. Unless you want us to make you into a real sandwich. When he saw the Reaper, he fell clean over on his backside. That's it? Oh, you rotten beggar! I told you to keep that a secret! He screamed, he did. Screamed and scribbled off in all fours. That's all I wanted to say. Mr. Gossip, is this true? The floor was dead slippery, that's why. Planted my head in a filthy pool of blood, didn't I? Yuck! Planted... What? 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 A pool of blood? Well, listen here. Even when I was sprawled on the floor, I still kept giving the Reaper a cold hard stare. Don't you forget it. Let's go back a little. Did you say you got blood on your hand? I did. Happens to the best of us at times, doesn't it? So I was scared, so I slipped over. And we can just keep it... We can keep it just between us, can't we? No, Mr. Gossip. I'm going to have to ask you to add that information to your formal testimony. Oh, if I must. The witness will amend his testimony to include the aforementioned details at once. Okay, I slipped over and got blood on my hand, so I quickly wiped it off on the floor. Okay, hold on. Let's take an opportunity to look at the notice board here. Oh! What is that? Oh, what's this? This is not a hodo. Look! Oh yes, it's a smudge of some kind. In fact, it looks just like a handprint. And the color, that's blood, isn't it? Oh dear, how disturbing. The details of the notice board have been updated. There's a bloody handprint on the backside. I think we know where that came from now.
Objection!
So you wiped off the blood from your hand on the floor of the room. Are you quite sure about that? Well, what else do you expect me to have done, eh? Does it really matter?
Objection!
The police found no such handprint on the floor during their investigations. What exactly is the defense asserting? If you listen, you'll find out, Prosecutor Asugi. Certainly, there was no bloody handprint found on the floor. What are you trying to say? There was a handprint in blood left very clearly at the scene. On the back of this notice board. These expressions are great. Ah, yes, indeed. Indisputably a handprint in the distinctive color of blood. Aye, you're dead right. That's my right hand. I'd know it anywhere.
Objection!
The witness very definitively testified that he's wiped his hand on the floor. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to get at, you dumb. Any handprints on the back of the board are irrelevant.
Objection!
Not if the board itself had fallen over onto the floor. In that case, it's quite possible for the witness's handprint to have ended up there. Just look at the floor plan of the room. The notice board was in the opposite corner of the room to the victim and in an upright position. Even if it someone been toppled was lying on the floor at the time, it would have been a considerable distance from the body. I fell over when I came across the body. So I was basically right next to the corpse, not on the other side of the room. In other words, the defense's assertion is contradictory. Yes, it is. There's a very definite contradiction here, for which there must be a reason. I take it that you formulated a proper hypothesis, counsel, regarding this apparent discrepancy between the witness's account and the handprint found at the scene? I have, my lord. This discrepancy between the witness's account and the location of the handprint is explained by... Well, if the board moved, then that would explain it. The real contradiction here is the handprint itself, not where it was found. As the court can see, it's upside down. Good gracious, so it is! If the witness had put his hand against the board, the finger should be pointing upwards. What does that tell us? It tells us one simple fact. When this handprint was made, the board must have been lying on the floor as I previously suggested. Which means that after the incident, it must have been moved. What?
Objection!
You're claiming that somebody moved the notice board after the shooting? Then tell the court who! I don't know that yet, but the point is, when you consider all the testimony we've heard so far, we can now be very clear on one point. And that would be the position of the notice board at the time of the incident, my lord. So, counsel, I must ask you to clarify your assertion for the court. At the time of the incident, where do you maintain the notice board was situated? Well, it would have to kind of be like around here for it to work well.
Take that!
This is the only possible location. Immediately adjacent to the doorway? If the court would think back to the testimony given by the defendant earlier, he said that when he entered the room, it was dark, and he couldn't see the body. My heck! If the notice board had been here, the body would have been completely hidden from view, and the light from the candles would have been blocked, making the room appear darker.
Objection!
But the accused also claims that the victim's body simply appeared before him. That's true. Or, in his precise words, just as I picked the firearm up to examine it, the door flew open and I heard a man scream. It was only then that the body of Inspector Gregson appeared before me. I don't know about calling it a scream, but he was talking about me and no mistake. Because it was me that kicked the door open. If you look again at the floor plan, consider what would happen if the door to the room was thrown open with force. That can't... The door struck the notice board, knocking it over, and making the victim's body visible. Good gracious! My client has told nothing but the truth. He has simply described what he saw. Ah! Let's go. Order, order! Counsel, how has this not come to light before now? After the incident, somebody must have righted the board and moved it into the position where the police, myself, and my colleagues saw it when we investigated the room. Witness, what have you to say for yourself? What? Me, my lord? You and your fellows were there at the scene before anybody else. It goes without saying that you must know something about the position of the notice board. The witnesses in the stand will testify again. You will each explain exactly what you did upon arriving at the scene of the crime. Stop looking at your glass at me. I get the message. I love his expression. Just like that one is so good. I don't know anything about that notice board. I just wiped my hand on it. That's all. Well, don't look at me. I haven't got a clue about it. I was doing business with some second years at the time. I don't know anything about anything. I'm just a bystander, me. It's just a sign of the crossroads of life. It was that Reaper, I bet. He's got a face that screams bored. What? I can't see how this changes anything anyway. The detective still died when we heard the gunshot. So none of you can elaborate further. Shaken by the crime they witnessed, and with only the light of a few candles and an oil lamp by which to see, we can't expect these witnesses to be able to give a more precise account of what happened. That's right, yeah. It don't pay to expect too much. It's man's endless quest for knowledge that's destroying the world. That's what I think. Well, you're not wrong, Beppo. Do you really? In any case, as the testimony shows, even if the notice board was moved by somebody following the incident, it makes no difference. When the gunshot rang out, the accused was the only person at the scene. In short, the only person who could possibly have committed this crime is Barok Van Zieks. None of this wrangling over the board changes that simple fact. Quite so, quite so. Does the defense still wish to cross-examine the witnesses despite the circumstances? Most certainly, my lord. Very well. Then you may proceed, counsel. Number 3, let's do it! Okay, I want to get some clarification on, like, what she was doing with the second years. Not...
Hold it!
When you say you were doing business with them, you mean you were selling them fireworks? Yeah, what else? There's the Priory School just around the corner, see? Those cheeky little so-and-sos have got a plan to blow their school to kingdom come. So I've been telling on them, letting the teachers know what they're up to. Oh, you have? Yeah, wouldn't want anyone to get hurt, so I let the school know the kids are playing with dodgy toys. Then, praise the Lord, the teachers take all the fireworks off them. And then, praise the Lord again, the kids all come back to me to buy more. Everyone's happy, see? What a racket. Of course, and sometimes teachers give me a little bonus to thank me for letting them know. I don't know why I brain froze there. It's a busy old life, selling explosives. Venus is a little guileful goddess indeed. Well, telling barefaced lies is kind of my thing, really. Oh, ever so good at it. All right, Beppo, what do you got?
Excuse me.
Something wrong, Mr. Sandwich? If I said it was, could we just leave it at that? Would that be the end of it? No. Did Miss Venus's statement just now bring something to mind, perhaps? Philosophical thoughts. Deep philosophical thoughts. Let's say there was a great liar. And that great liar said without batting an eye, telling barefaced lies is kind of my thing. I'm ever so good at it. Would those words of hers be a lie too? Or the truth? In which case, she's not a liar. Oh, it's a hellish paradox, that one. Don't you think? I'm not entirely sure, to be honest. But it seems to me you're suggesting Miss Venus has been lying. Are you? What are you on about, old man? Trying to cause trouble, are you? Keep on like that, and I'll wrap your whole body in firecrackers and set them off. That'll give you something to tremble about. You'll have a certainly disturbing mind behind that sweet and innocent face, young lady. So, Miss Venus has lied in her testimony. Is that what you're saying, Mr. Sandwich? Well, if it means I'll be burning in hellfire for the rest of my days, so be it. Yes, that's what I'm saying. Can you elaborate, please, sir? Old Blathermouth here headed for the room where the gunshots seemed to come from. But there was someone else who crept up the stairs behind him, too. That's right. That rotten liar over there. Heh. Do you mean to say that you did in fact betake yourself to the scene of the crime after all? What did I tell you, eh? I said I was good at telling barefaced lies, didn't I? Yes, you mentioned it. Well, that revelation rocked the whole courtroom, didn't it? Who knew firecrackers packed such a punch? So you did indeed visit the scene of the crime, did you, young lady? Good grief! Well, now you come to mention it. I suppose perhaps I do clearly remember climbing the stairs to the room. Yeah. And either you clearly remember or you don't. Well, I shall consider it a fitting punishment for this perjurious act later. For the time being, you will immediately amend your testimony to reflect the truth. Oh, yes, my lord, of course. Maybe I did sneak along behind gossip and have a little peek into the room where it all happened. Alright, let's press this now. You make a habit of lying, do you, Miss Venus? Well, I suppose so. I don't really know, to be fair. If you want my advice, though, I take everything I say with a big pinch of salt. Alright. But you did in fact go to the room where the victim was killed and then in question, didn't you? Oh, please. As if I would. I can't think of anything more terrifying. The truth, please. Well, alright, just a bit then. Dude, like this... what you're pulling right now is super illegal. Please stop with this lying. I mean, a girl my age is curious about stuff, you know? Did you touch anything at the scene? Oh, please, as if I would. I mean, there was a dead body on the floor. The truth, please. Kazuma's had it with these people. Well, alright, just a bit then. I had a look to see if there was anything I could sell. So I did give the place a once-over, but it was nothing to write home about. Right, now, I hesitate to ask, but... you didn't move the notice board by any chance, did you? Oh, please, as if I would touch anything like that. Just a few bits of loose change is all I add. The truth, please. Well, alright then. I thought there might be something worth having underneath it. So I blasted the flippin' thing. Sorry, flip the blasted thing. You're telling us that you did move that board? I think that did slip out, didn't it? What? You daft brownbutt! I don't believe it. The girl doesn't think. So, Did you find anything then? Something that you might have taken, perhaps? To sell? Oh, please. I should be so lucky. The truth now! I might have found this old pocket watch under the noseboard, I suppose. But it's a bit of junk like this can't be worth much if you ask. So it was you, was it? You're the one who took it! Gina? Young lady, may I remind you where you are? That watch there. That was a present to Inspector Grayson from the yard. Well, big case he sold 10 years ago. The professor case, no doubt. The boss used to wind it up every evening without fail when he was waiting for his grub to come to the pub. I see. I swiped it off him once, and blimey was he upset. He gave me a right earful. Said he hadn't missed a day in the last 10 years, polishing it and winding it. It meant the world to him, that watch did. Possibly not the best thing to go diving for then. It's not all that, though. I took it to Jabez that night to ask how much it was worth. The old dealer wouldn't touch it. Wouldn't give me a penny for it. Said it wasn't working. Nah, it's about and worthless, he called it. Ah! I knew I should have lifted it. That watch must be submitted as evidence at once. Oh, please. Just as long as you promise to give it back when we're done. No, f*** you. Not a chance. I'll slow it from you if you try to get your grubby mitts on it again. That's enough. Hand the watch over to the bailiff forthwith. Now, children, watch your manners. Good Lord! The glass appears to be broken. More than likely, it shattered when the inspector was shot. It doesn't tick anymore either. Which is why Jabs didn't want it. What a waste, eh? Yes, indeed. It appears to have stopped at the hour of 5. Exactly when the gunshot was heard then. Which supports the prosecution's claim, of course. Gregson's pocket watch has been entered to the court record. Inspector Gregson's pocket watch that he wound without fail every single day. It's no longer ticking and the glass over the face is cracked. Well, it would appear that the mystery of the movie Noseboard has been solved at least. And as predicted, it has very little bearing on the case. Ugh. Now then, continue with your cross-examination, please, counsel. Oh, it's the bottom. Okay. There we go. Let's examine the bottom of this pocket watch here. Ah, there's a tiny little keyhole here. Can you see? Oh yes, that's probably for the winder used to wind up the mechanism. It looks like a little unusual, don't you think? Yes, you just need the right key to wind it, I imagine. Why do I feel as though I've seen something? Something a bit like a key that's about the right size to fit in this hole. It would be wonderful if we had the key. Let's check carefully over what we've already found. Gee, if only we established there was a key earlier. I guess we need to establish that there's a key again. There we go. Mrs. Otto, do you think perhaps this key could be the key for Inspector Gregson's watch? Oh, yes, it could be. Let's try it at once. There's not a moment to lose. I knew it! A perfect fit! And look! The inspector's watch has started going again. Ah, so it has obviously just not been wound up, that's all. What is it, Mrs. Uttle? Well, if the watch isn't actually broken after all, I have a feeling it have profound implications. She's deep in thought now. Perhaps I'd better start thinking deeply too. Okay, so the details of the pocket watch have been updated. Something wound every single day. Having wound it up, it started ticking again. Alright, so now that we have updated the watch, let's try presenting it on statement number 5. I'm afraid that's not necessarily the case. Oh? At the scene, we found this key to the winder of the Inspector's Broke Watch. A key? And having wound the pocket watch, we discovered that it in fact still works. You see, the watch didn't stop because it was broken at all. And that fact completely undermines one of the most fundamental premises on which this entire case has been built. What? Order, order, order! But counsel, the watch was stopped at almost exactly 5 o'clock. Yeah, which is just when we heard the gunshot. It is exactly the hour. The time that was shown on the watch tells us nothing other than when it wound down. It's merely a coincidence that it happened to be at 5 o'clock.
Objection!
Even if that's true, the 3 witnesses here all heard the gunshot at 5 o'clock. So that's obviously when this crime was committed.
Objection!
No, that doesn't hold. Why not? Recall what Inspector Lestrade said only moments ago. The boss used to wind up every evening without fail when he was waiting for a grub to come at the pub. Said he hadn't missed a day in the last 10 years, polishing it and winding it. It meant the world to him, that watch did. The victim was in the habit of winding his watch once a day in the evening. We can reasonably assume, therefore, that he wound the timepiece on the evening before he died as well. Yes, that would be entirely reasonable. But if that's the case, you wouldn't expect the watch to have completely wound down by 5 o'clock the following day. Oh, well, how do you explain it then? In summary, the evening before the day of the incident, when the gunshot rang out in that room, the inspector was already unable to wind his watch. You can't mean... What would stop a man winding his watch if he's been in the habit of winding it every single evening for 10 years? The obvious answer is that he was already dead! Order, order! Counsel, this is a most extraordinary claim!
Objection!
Extraordinary isn't the word, it's absurd! You claim he was already dead the night before? Do you really think that Scotland Yard's coroner would have overlooked something like that? Yes. On that subject, there is something rather surprising. There's actually an omission in the coroner's report. The time of death is not noted. That's right. Wait a minute. You're forgetting that my legs went from under me when I kicked the door in. What do you mean? Like I said, I planted my hand in a dirty great puddle of blood. Yes. So the victim's blood hadn't dried. It was fresh. He catches on fast, doesn't he?
Objection!
That blood could be explained in any number of ways. It could have just been put there afterwards. Some fresh blood could have been poured over the victim's body after he... Does my lord friend think that fresh blood is available on every street corner? Well, it needn't necessarily have been human blood, of course. We've been told previously that Scotland Yard has no way to identify blood as human. The problem is currently being researched. At present, you are correct. It is beyond our abilities. So then, a chicken's blood could have been used, for example. It's certainly a possibility that it wasn't in the inspector's blood at all.
Objection!
But the gunshot was heard at 5 o'clock that afternoon. That's beyond question. Is it, though? What? Given that the time of death of the victim has already been called into question, Isn't it beyond the realms of possibility that what these witnesses heard wasn't a gunshot at all? Oh, please. What are you trying to say? I know what we heard, and it was a loud bang that came from that there room. Now, you listen to me. A street seller's ears are his livelihood. Why do you still have the whip? I don't doubt your ears, sir, but all you can state with certainty is that you heard a noise. Eh? Explain yourself then, counsel. A noise that sounds like a gunshot could have been made with, well, the objects that we clearly established are firework that sound like gunshots.
Take that!
Something like this. The culprit could have set off one of these to fake a gunshot. Good gracious! The very fireworks that are sold by the witness? Now hold on a minute. Are you saying I did it? My pretty little firecrackers only make little pop anyway. Not 100 of them together. The Venus special that you sell for 600 pennies sounds like this. As the court can now attest, it sounds very much like a gunshot, in fact. Ah! You're trying to suggest that somebody set off one of those fireworks off at the scene? I'm suggesting that someone knew the defendant was in the room at 5 that day and sought to implicate him by creating a sound like a gunshot for these peddlers on Fresno Street to hear.
Objection!
But even the accused himself has testified that he saw no one else in the room at the time. Whether it was a gun or a firecracker, the only person present to cause that bang was Barok Van Zieks. One whiff of a match and my firecrackers go pop. See? It's why people like them. I fear for your fingers, young lady.
Objection!
Recently, during my time here in Britain, I've learned of a very useful invention indeed. Something called a time bomb? Good heavens! A bomb? Yes, a device that allows you to blow up whatever you like, whenever you like. Miss Nadaho, though, I worry that your unfortunate phrasing there may lead to yet another international incident. Ah! No, wait. It's the whenever you like part that's important. A timed device? Yes, exactly. A timed device. Something of that nature could have been planted at the scene. A device that was able to produce the sound of a gunshot long after the culprit had left. Your extravagant claim ought to be substantiated with evidence, counsel. What proof do you have to suggest in any way that a time device was employed to create the gunshot wound? Well, top of the candle's appears to have blown off, and it's obvious that some time elapsed with the candelabrum, so...
Take that!
As the court has already discussed, the tip of one of the candles in this candelabrum has been blown off. Indeed, because it was struck by the bullet, which presumably passed through the victim. I don't think that's possible, my lord. Not possible. Why? Because of the scorching. There are gunpowder scorch marks clearly visible on the broken candle. There are? Goodness, yes! But is it not the case that there was also scorching on the victim around the bullet entry wound? That's right, there was. But as we heard earlier, scorching like that only occurs when the target is at very close range, a matter of centimeters from the gun. Which means that the scorch on the candle can't possibly be the result of the gunshot. You're suggesting it came from the fireworks? How can that be, eh? The fact that there's such visible scorch on the candle suggests that the fireworks must have been right next to it when they exploded. Or to put it another way, the candle and the firecrackers were joined together. The culprit somehow attached the firecrackers at a point partway down the candle. After the killer left the scene, the candle slowly burnt down along with the other two. until eventually it ignited the fuse of the firecrackers, generating a loud... And that is how these witnesses came to believe they had heard a gunshot at 5 o'clock. Well, what a plot. You're telling me, dude. And this implies that the victim could have died earlier than we'd been led to believe. The previous day, even. Now, just hold your horses! All us alone here saw the victim go into that building, remember? I couldn't forget that flame-colored hair, even if I wanted to. The person you saw entering the building wasn't the victim at all. Consider this. Ah! Obviously, anybody can wear a wig. So the person that these witnesses saw entering the building 15 minutes before the incident occurred could easily have been someone else entirely wearing the red hairpiece. Someone else? Do you mean to say... It was the same person who contrived the firecracker trick. In other words, Inspector Gregson's killer. Oh, very impressive, Ryunosuke Naruhodo. Kazuma? I'm really quite amazed you've come this far. But after all, wasn't I the one who told you that you had all the makings of a great defense lawyer? I also know the lack of time of death in this report. A stark omission. But as far as I'm concerned, this whole country's justice system leaves a lot to be desired. Order, order, order! Prosecutor Asogi, what on earth do you mean by that statement? I hear that many of the leading members of Britain's judiciary are present to observe this trial today. So we cannot allow even the slightest doubt to be overlooked. The defense's assertion about the time of death based on the victim's stopwatch is just conjecture. But, while the possibility exists that my learned friend may be correct, we have a duty to explore it. Well, certainly, I would agree with you. And what immediately comes to mind is, of course, what was Inspector Gregson doing? And where did he go on the day before the incident? Do you know? The inspector always carried out his investigative work alone. His movements were treated as confidential within Scotland Yard. Even within the yard? However, considering the evidence we've been presented with so far, I'd say it's fairly apparent what case the man was pursuing. Wouldn't you, my learned friend? I do have a feeling about what case he might have been investigating. Yes, I agree. Surely. My lord, the defense believes it can explain to the court the case that was being investigated by Inspector Gregson at the time of his death. Very well, counsel. Present your argument to the court. What evidence is suggestive of the case being investigated by the inspector on the day prior to the incident? Considering what it was the immediate precedent here and what we've been informed of.
Take that!
I believe this red hairpiece points to the answer. We might assume that it was part of a disguise used to carry out an undercover investigation. Surely not! Such a brightly colored hairpiece would only serve to make the inspector more noticeable. Yes, that's quite true. It would definitely have made him stand out in a crowd. Except, that is, in a crowd of gentlemen from the Red-Headed League. The Red-Headed League? So, you'd already worked it out. What on earth is this all about? Is there such an extraordinary league of gentlemen? The Red-Headed League is currently under investigation for a grand deception. A deception of what nature, Counsel? They've been targeting red-headed men across all of London and tricking them out of small sums of money. 2 men were arrested for the misdemeanor only yesterday, in fact. My lord, the defense calls for those 2 men to be summoned at once. The 2 redheads? Inspector Gregson clearly infiltrated the Red-Headed League using this hairpiece. So it's very likely that he had direct contact with these criminals. And it's quite possible that such contact led to more serious events. I concur that we cannot, in good conscience, leave this new avenue unexplored. Well done, Mr. Naruhodo. Well, it's another possible line of inquiry for us at least. The prosecution will make immediate arrangements for the charged men to appear. Bring these 2 Red-Headed League conspirators before me, Prosecutor Asogi. At once, my lord. Very good. You will have a 30-minute recess. Court is adjourned.